Hello, welcome back to my messy room. I'm Barbara and I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope that you are staying hydrated. I hope that you are resting and you are maintaining your boundaries with yourself and others around you. Today we're going to talk about books and I'm really excited about it because I have actually started reading again. Cooper's excited too. It's like he knows when I hit record. Oh, there's runners outside. It's so cold and wet. What are you doing? What was I saying? Oh, I'm so excited because I have got back into reading. I used to be a very avid reader growing up and I fell out of it just to not knowing that I was autistic, not knowing that I was ADHD, and just burning out. Just absolutely crashing and burning multiple times and constantly trying to recover and not having time to recover. Today's video, we're talking about reading and getting back into reading, overcoming our ADHD, autism, burnout, and learning how to self-regulate so we can actually pay attention to the words on the page. I know, crazy. What a concept. I'm up to 6 books since I started reading at the end of November, and I'm just like so hyped and proud of myself. And not reading for fun since The Hunger Games came out. I didn't think I was ever gonna get back into reading, and here I am doing it. So I just wanted to share my experience and hopefully inspire other people who used to read, maybe discovered that they're neurodivergent, want to see somebody get back into it and their process for doing it. I'm not a professional. I have no courses to buy. I'm just sharing my experience. Hopefully it helps, but take what you need, leave what you don't. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start at the beginning. So basically, like I said, I used to read all the time. I was an avid reader as a kid growing up, so much so that I got in trouble in school for reading too much. Also had really bad insomnia growing up, just due to anxiety and burnout and just neurospicy things. I devoured books regularly. I was always in the library, always asking to go, always being dropped off. Like my summer days were literally in the library because I loved going to bookstores. I still do. And then I became an adult, got into college, struggling with regulating my body and my mind. And I didn't know that I was on the spectrum. I didn't know that I was ADHD. Just trying to mask as much as I can to pretend that I'm okay and that I'm a functioning human just like everybody else, when really I was just incredibly burnt out, incredibly tired, just using every single drop of energy to survive. I just could not read. I literally couldn't focus on the page. I could not comprehend what I was reading. It lasted up until now. For the first time in my short adult life, I've been able to regulate and take care of myself and allow myself to be disabled, essentially, and learning how to take care of my needs, learning how to be myself. I got diagnosed about 3 years ago. Since that confirmation, every day has been better and better and better. And that's not everybody's experience, obviously, but for me, I needed the confirmation there is something else about me, so there's now a way to move forward, and it has helped a lot. It has helped me process things and maneuver the world and understand what's happening to me, be able to take care of myself, which is huge. So that has allowed me to open up my brain space for things that I care about, things that I'm interested in, and to fall back into my previous interest, which books used to be a huge, big interest for me. I was obsessed with stories, obsessed with fantasy, historical fiction. I loved it. I loved escaping into these worlds. I was missing stories. It kind of dawned on me, the thing that I'm missing, you find it in books. Sorry, I just got distracted. I feel very much like that rock photo of him where he's with the fanny pack. Anyway, beside the point. What was I saying? I want to talk about what helped me get through the last 6 books that I read. And I started reading again at the end of November. It's now the end of January. So that's maybe 2 months, maybe 6 weeks. I've almost completed 6 books. That's crazy. Going from 0 to, and that could be my ADHD, hyperfixation, new shiny dopamine, need to have it all, current obsession, which is fine. I'm learning to cycle through my interest and to come back to them. Let's talk about what helped me to stick with it and not read 10 pages and then never pick up the book again. It was really hard for me to get into the book at first. I really struggled with reading it, and I actually found the audiobook, and that really helped me kind of find the cadence and rhythm of how the book was supposed to be read. I'm very musically inclined, so my brain works best with cadences and rhythms, and hearing someone else read it gave me the ability to pick up on it and then carry it through the book. I'm sorry, I have been struggling with migraines here lately, and I keep getting waves of it. Okay, I think it's gone now. Anyway, so let me drink some water. Have you had some water today? How do we like my new glasses? How do we like them? I think they're really cute. They make me feel very academic. Anyway, and then also annotating. I'd never annotated before. I was never an annotation person. Growing up, it was always kind of drilled in me to leave a book the same condition that you received it. I also read a lot of library books as well. I wanted to try it out because I really liked the way it looked when it was tabbed, very aesthetically pleasing. I started annotating the first book that I read. I'm gonna get into all the books that I read, so don't worry if you wanna know what I read and you're curious about that, I'm gonna get to it. But annotating really helped, and I love looking at the book now because I can see exactly what points of the book really inspired me or I really related to, or I was surprised about the plot. I kind of just go with the flow. There's some of the books I didn't annotate at all because I just didn't feel the need, but then there's some books that I read the first page, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna underline that. I think it's a nice kind of way to keep you engaged in the book. I've noticed too that it helps with fidgeting and tactile sensation. It really hits all of your sensory needs to keep you engaged in the actual thing, because you know, sitting still and looking at a page can be very, very boring for the ADHD mind. And then with the autism, if you have a lot of sensory issues, like I have a lot of audio sensory issues, and we're gonna get into that, but trying to like fill every sensory need that I might have really helped me to stay with it. And that brings me to the other thing. So since learning that I'm autistic, I have really been trying to figure out what my sensory sensitivities are. I'm listening to myself and my body and leaning into the ick. I can think about like, why does this bother me? What can I do to fix it? That kind of thing. I noticed while reading that I was getting so distracted by sound. I'm one of those autistics that can hear electricity, I can hear my internal body, I can hear a car down the street, like even right now, I forgot to bring my earplugs, and now I'm aware of it, so I'm trying to like get back on track. Get back to the focus point. I started wearing earplugs while reading, and it really, really helped, especially at night. If my partner goes to bed before me, I do not get distracted by their snoring or breathing or, you know, the dog groaning or the cat meowing, whatever. It really, really helps me to stay immersed in the story and kind of lose myself in it. And also listening to ambient sounds really, really helped as well. I did find, because I am a recovering music major, that listening to ambient sound with too much music can be very distracting, because then I start connecting it to other music that I know and the echolalia goes off, and then it's really distracting. The thing that I really like listening to was like fireside or camping sounds. I swear he knows. Or forest sounds. Sometimes I would pick like adventure theme ambient sounds, or I tried to pick the ambient sounds that are similar to the type of book that I'm reading, and it really, really helps to like make me feel immersed in the story, because I feel like I am with these people. I'm in the woods, in this creepy house. Also making a cozy vibe for reading. I have very low warm lighting. I struggle with migraines, I struggle with eye strain. I'm very light sensitive, so I'm constantly in the dark. It just is more comfortable for me. So I create a very cozy vibe. I light a candle, light some incense. Usually I listen to ambient sound from YouTube, and they usually have like really nice imagery with it, and that really helps my brain kind of set into, I'm reading now. This is a reading situation, and it makes my autism very happy. I have tried very hard to not shame myself for needing to take breaks, needing to reread a page. I've learned that when I sit down to read initially, I'm probably gonna read that first page 2 to 3, sometimes 4 times depending on the day, and before I like retain it and know what's happening and remember this plot line and can get back into the story. Later when I'm reading, my eyes will get tired, they'll stop focusing. My chronic pain issues, I need to get up and stretch and move every once in a while and like reset and then get back into reading. And does it take me longer to read? Yeah, 100%. But it's better than like trying to push through and burning out and then like never picking up a book again. I need to reset. What was that? I don't know. I need to reset. I need to take care of myself and make sure I'm staying hydrated and I'm going to the bathroom and I'm feeding myself. I need a little more babying. That's fine. And sometimes I sit for hours and read. Sometimes I only read for 30 minutes. It really just depends. And it's been good. I kind of just go with the flow. I've learned that having autism and ADHD, you need to go with the flow and make structure around that flow. And that's been really helpful for me. And I can do more in-depth information on that if you would like. The very last thing that helped me, that might not be something that you want to do, but it definitely helped me so much, is vlogging the process. Filming reading vlogs, actually filming any task, really helps me to follow through that task, complete that task. And I don't know if it's like faux body doubling, or it makes me feel accountable, or I want to like create something really cool for you to watch. I don't know what it is about it. It gives gives me so much dopamine, and it makes the task so much easier to do, so much more enjoyable, so much more fun, because I feel like I'm doing it with a friend, and I appreciate you being here and watching right now. It means the world to me. Thank you for perceiving me and my experience. It does really mean a lot, so I appreciate you. Okay, let's get into the books that I read. Jess on YouTube, which I really enjoy their channel. You should definitely check them out, especially if you're looking for diverse books and honest reviews, because they're great. Anyway, Jess on YouTube mentioned offhand a book that I had recently purchased at a used bookstore, and I was like, I'm gonna read it right now. And I did. This book, The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. And I was like, oh, a booktuber mentioned a book that I actually have, because I was trying not to buy books, but we'll get into that later. And I'm gonna read it because now I feel like I could be part of the group. I'm part of the club. So I live like smack dab in the middle of the Bible Belt. And in the state that I live in, there is a vacation destination for like Christians to go to, basically. I went there with my parent and my sibling. I stumbled across a used bookstore and I found this book, and I just had to buy it because look at this cover. 10-year-old me was screaming. I would have loved to see this as a child. A mixed race black girl in historical dress. Gimme everything. The Year of the Witching is about a mixed race black girl growing up with a bunch of white people in a puritanical religious group set in historical fantasy time frame. They have like this dark woods. It's forbidden to go into. No one's allowed to go in there. But she went in there and stumbled across two lesbian witches, and they gave her a journal that belonged to her mother who had died, and you find that out like literally page 1, so it's not a spoiler. But anyway, my screensaver kicked on and it's very distracting to me because it's the bubbles. Anyway, you know, shenanigans ensue, things happen. It is so good. Look how much I tabbed, except for the last like quarter of it, but I related so much to this book. If you are a mixed race person, specifically with a black and white parent, you grew up religious and you have religious trauma, I highly recommend. I very much enjoyed it. I will say the ending left a little bit to desire, but I related to Emmanuel so much in her journey and her self-discovery. Let me read a passage let me see if I can find it. Emmanuel wished she could feel the way her grandmother did, but sitting there in the pew, all she felt was the residual warmth of the lamb's blood on her lips and the incessant drone of her heartbeat. No angels roosted on her shoulders. No spirit or God stirred in her. If that didn't sum up my whole experience growing up in church. And there's not a lot of romance in this. There's no smut or anything. I'm not a big smut girly. Everyone's trying to get me into it and I'm just like, I don't know. It's not for me. It's very good. And I'm going to read more from Alexis Henderson. I really want to read House of Hunger, and I will probably pick up almost everything she writes. I really enjoyed this, and this book will be very sentimental to me for a very long time. Very good book to start my reading journey. I suddenly got very cold. I'm going to turn my space heater on. So enough about that. The next book that I read was A Reliable Wife by Robert Gulrick. I picked this up at a thrift store for $1, and I know why this book was $1. I DNF'd it. I got about halfway through. I have a bone to pick with Robert. Let me tell you what this book's about first, and then I'll rant about it. A Reliable Wife is about a woman named Catherine in Edwardian America, and specifically Chicago. She reverse catfishes this rich guy in Wyoming named Ralph, which I hate that name, but that's a whole other topic. And you know, her plan is to marry this rich man and kill him and inherit all of his money. He has plans of his own. I don't know what it was because I stopped reading the book, but Robert A knows nothing about women. I am into historical costuming and I watch a lot of that kind of content, and I'm interested in it. And he wrote a line about how this woman threw a velvet gown, which velvet at this time was made out of silk, so anyway, a velvet gown out of a train window along with her corset. No respectable woman in 1907 is going anywhere without a corset. Absolutely not, especially if she's trying to get a well-to-do man. What are you talking about? Too many uses of the word Negro. I didn't like that. And the way he described people of color in this book was racist and problematic. Also, he referred to Ralph's penis as his sex. And I really hated that. And a whole chapter about how Ralph wants to masturbate but won't masturbate because he's too good to masturbate, but he wants sex, but he doesn't want it. A whole chapter. Apparently Robert only wrote nonfiction prior to this. This is his first fiction work, and honestly, he should stick. I haven't read any of his nonfiction. I don't plan to ever read anything by him again, but this was a swing and a miss. I'm gonna put it in one of those like free libraries and somebody can read my annotations because it's so bad. I wasn't going to mention this book. I just feel like I should. So right after I DNF'd this, the next book I was going to read was The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. Inward with hard R on the first page. And then I just did and found it 4 more times. This man is not black. It gave me the immediate ick. I DNF'd it immediately and I it's a no for me. DNFing books. In my brain, I hear it as didn't fucking read, but that's beside the point. DNF your books because do you have a book report you gotta write? Do you have a class assignment? No. The next book that I've read, Coyote Blue by Christopher Moore. This book is about a man who's part of the Crow Nation. He got in trouble while on the reservation. He had to leave. He had to escape. He had to flee, okay? He had to go into hiding, kind of. The book takes place in the 80s. Anyway, so he grows up. He's like in his 30s. He's a successful insurance salesman, but he meets this girl, helps her out because she's like a flat tire or something, takes her to work, and he's like, oh my God, this girl is the most perfect, beautiful thing I've ever seen. Her name is Calliope, and he's like, oh my God. His name is Sam, but his original name was Samson Hunsalone. I really like how the Crow people come up with their names. I don't know. This book made me do a deep dive on the Crow Nation and their traditions and, just a little bit of information about it. They talk about Sam speaking Crow, and I wanted to hear what the language sounded like, and that became a snowball. But anyway, so he meets this girl, and then soon after meeting this girl, he runs into a crow chaos god, and his name's Coyote, and he just like comes in and just absolutely wrecks this man's life. He just, at one point, he like sells his car for like $500 so he could go gamble in Las Vegas. Like, just so many things happen in this book, and it's so fun. It's sad. There are parts where I was like on the verge of tears. Pokey, Uncle Pokey. Oh, I love Uncle Pokey. Just such a good book. Now, keep in mind, this is a indigenous story written by a white man, but I do feel like he did a good job of writing about this experience and doing his research and really immersing himself with the Crow Nation. But again, I don't know. I'm not indigenous. This could be wildly offensive, but I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to read more books about indigenous stories, specifically by indigenous authors. This is my partner's book, and they recommended me read this after The Reliable Wife and the Oscar Wilde situation. And I like Christopher Moore. I feel like he's going to be my palate cleanser author when I need to get out of a reading rut or something, because it's very easy to read, it's very quick to read, it's very immersive, and I really enjoyed it. So, Coyote Blue by Christopher Moore. And the last book that I want to talk about is a childhood favorite of mine, Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. As you can see, this book is very well loved. I love this book. Honestly, I'm still mad at Anne Hathaway for the movie. But let me tell you what this book is about. So Ella Enchanted is a Cinderella retelling. Basically, she gets gifted the gift of obedience by a fairy. Basically, if she's given a command, she has to do it regardless of what that command is. And that could get a little tricky. I'm sure you've read this book. If you were a book girly in the early 2000s or late 90s, you probably read this book. One of the things that was surprising to me is that the prince, Prince Char, is black. And I did not notice that when I read the book the first time. It's the only annotation I made, and I'm going to read it to you right now because it really made me happy. He looked like his father too, although the sharp angles of King Gerald's face were softened in his son. They each had tawny curls and swarthy skin. I had never been near enough to the king to know if he also had a sprinkling of freckles across his nose. Surprising on such a dark face. And that just made my child heart sing. I love the representation. And I'm sad they didn't cast him as a black boy in the movie, as well as kept with the actual theme of this book. There is a really good video essay about book versus the movie. I cannot remember the YouTuber's name, but I will post it here and leave it in the description so you can watch it because I did really enjoy it. And if you enjoyed this book as a kid and you hated the movie, I think that's a good video to watch, and I really enjoyed that video essay. Those are the books that I read. I'm currently reading a book, and I DNF'd another one, but we're vlogging that, so you'll have to watch my reading vlog to know what that's about. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you have any recommendations for me. I would love to know. Also, leave me a comment. I really appreciate when I get comments on my videos. It literally brightens my day. Like, I got a comment the other day and it just like made me silly grin for like hours. I was just like, they actually watched my video. And I was just really appreciative. Let me know what booktubers you like to watch. I specifically am looking for fat POC booktubers, please, please. Sometimes I want to see some variety in the bodies and the skin tones. That is my video all about how I got back into reading. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope you try some of the things. Let me know if you tried them. Let me know if they worked for you. Let me know your suggestions on how you keep reading as a person with a neurospicy mind. I love getting suggestions and things like that. It's very helpful for me. You know, as always, take what you need, leave what you don't. No harm, no foul on that. I'm just sharing my experience and hoping that it helps other people. I so appreciate you being here and hanging out with me today. I hope you had a good old time with me. I had fun. Let me know that you're out there and you're watching and you're interested by leaving a comment, liking, subscribing, following me on Instagram, which is @velvet.curls. I'm always down to chat. My DMs are open. I am here to hang out and make friends and, you know, see where this takes us. And, you know, you get to be at the very beginning of someone's experience. You get to say, I was hanging out with Barbara, like, at the beginning. I appreciate you being here first and hanging out. Thank you so much for being here, watching to the end. Thank you for perceiving me. I will see you in the next video. Bye.